You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Sit down, strap in, get settled. You're about to listen to episode 45 of the Soulforge podcast.
Welcome to the Soulforge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soulforge.
Greetings, everyone. How are you today? You may have noticed that there's a bit of a different introduction for the podcast. Well, I've got some exciting news to share with all of you. That's going to come up pretty soon. But first, I just wanted to take this opportunity and once again thank my previous guest on the last episode, Whit, for sharing his story, his lifestyle choices. Not only do I appreciate his story, we got some feedback for the episode as well. Someone writes, "What a great story. It is refreshing to hear a man with such pride in himself. I am sure the right woman is out there, probably looking for you too. Thank you for sharing." So Whit, a woman wrote that, and she thinks she had a great story. I think he had a great story, and I've talked to other people. I've shared the link for the podcast at work this week. I told everybody about it. It's got a lot of listens, and people are really enjoying your honesty. So that's really nice, actually. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today on episode 45 of Soulforge? Well, that's a very good question that you asked, or didn't ask, or I just pretended that you asked. What is it all about? It's been difficult to come up with a cool topic for this week's show. In fact, it's all I've been thinking about all week long. What else is there? I've talked about a lot of things. The last 3, 4, 5 episodes have been interview shows or conversational type episodes. It's been a while since I've done a show about me, my trials and tribulations and drama in my life and whatnot. But I didn't want to have a downer episode this week. I wanted to talk about something fun. So I went through a bunch of topics. Could I talk about some school stories? Could, but I don't really have anything exciting from my school days to talk about that I can think of offhand that makes a great story. You may not be aware of this, but I was not the coolest guy in high school. I was on the chess club. That's pretty cool, right, guys? One of the exciting things about that was that I did get to go on a couple of trips to chess tournaments. One was in Ottawa and one was in Toronto. And I remember we stayed at the University of Toronto for that trip. And all I remember is losing a bunch of chess games to people who were much better players than I was. And I also remember we were staying in the dorms. And I put a microwave in the donut for 2 minutes just to see what would happen. And it exploded and it made the whole dorm smell really bad. And we all had to go outside because they thought there was a fire. I don't think I've ever told that story, but that's something that I did or helped do. I think I had an accomplice. Maybe it was their idea. Maybe I pressed the button. I can't remember. That's more than 20 years ago. Doesn't matter. It was funny. We laughed. But I didn't want to really talk about that. I could talk about some embarrassing stories, like when I was in Air Cadets and I went to Air Cadet Camp and I had my fellow cadet wrap me in toilet paper from head to toe and I pretended I was a mummy when I walked out into the common area. Was that embarrassing? No, more stupid than anything. I was like 13, so really. Yeah. And then I thought, how about what makes you happy? Sean, what makes you happy? Let's talk about that. But that's a huge topic, and maybe it's a multi-part episodic series. So I'm going to save that for later. And I thought, well, you know what I don't do? I don't talk about current events very much. So for example, as I'm recording this, it's April 17th, 2018. This is going to be released on Thursday the 19th because I always try to release my episodes on Thursdays. And what happened recently? Oh boy, celebrity deaths. Do we want to talk about that? Not really. That's not exciting. It's not a fun, chipper topic. For example, Harry Anderson, the star of Night Court, just passed away at the age of 65 this week. And last weekend, Milos Forman passed away. He was the director of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But I don't want to talk about celebrity deaths. I don't know any of these celebrities. Actually, I did do an episode about celebrities I've had interactions with. You may have heard that one. But nobody's super duper famous.
Hey, this is Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, and you're listening to Soul Forge with Sean Vanderloo.
And I don't want to talk about dead celebrities because that's depressing as well. As I was going through the list of topics to pick from, I thought, well, maybe I could talk about my car history. But do you guys want to hear about that? Probably not. I got my first car when I was 23 after I got fired from Tim Hortons. So that's a story that I might tell one day in the future. And then I was thinking, how about anniversaries? Because April is a big month of anniversaries for me. And I guess what reminds me of that is that I always think whenever April 12th comes around, oh, that's the day the Titanic set sail. And then on the 15th it sunk. And see, that's depressing too. I don't want to talk about anniversaries. Like, for example, today's the 17th, as I said. 9 years ago today, Trish and I bought a house together and moved in. But, see, that was 9 years ago. And then 6 years ago, we broke up on April the 27th. And then 3 years ago, I broke up with the next girl and bought my house on April 29th. So, yeah, not exciting topics, not good anniversaries. It's not fun. I don't want to talk about those because those broken relationships sometimes make me sad. So I don't want to talk about that. And then I thought, you know what? This is the never-ending winter. It just won't end. It doesn't go away. It's supposed to be spring, but we just got 3/4 of a foot of snow over the last 2 days. We didn't go out and deliver the mail yesterday because it was icy rain and they thought it was too slippery for us. So today, Tuesday, we went out, but we had to deliver Monday and Tuesday mail, and it was melty and it was snow, and nobody shoveled because everybody's pissed off at this never-ending winter. So not only was it hard to trudge through the snow, everything was melty, and I must have got 75 soakers, and my feet were wet, and I've got blisters. Not fun. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about how sore I was last week after I got back from my 2 weeks of vacation. Although I did learn that 2 weeks is a great amount of time off to feel refreshed and relaxed from working. But because I walk so much during the day and I didn't walk for those 2 weeks, last week was brutal. How much do I walk? Well, on average, I walk about, I don't know, my Carrot Rewards app on my phone says my goal is 22,500 steps per day. On average, I make about 23,000 steps. And today, of all days, it was 28,000 and some. So a lot of walking today, a lot of flyers, a lot of parcels, a lot of mail to deliver, 2 days worth, not fun, and all the soakers and the blisters, and nothing good there. It's the never-ending winter. And that reminds me of Game of Thrones and how they were always threatening winter is coming. Well, it's here and it's not leaving. And that got me onto the topic of pop culture.
Temporal anomaly detected on Earth 2017. Is it the Doctor? No, it is a human using the number 42. They have the ultimate answer. They are having civil discussions about television, film, comics, books, and video games. Where is the fan rage? This is a threat to the Daleks. We must exterminate them. Humans must be hostile to each other so that the Daleks may rule supreme. Exterminate. Exterminate. The 42 cast. Bad for Daleks, good for humanity.
And that's exciting. So I'm going to talk about some TV shows that I've been watching. Before I do that, I just mentioned that I was off for 2 weeks. And what did I do during those 2 weeks? Well, that was Easter time, and I did go to the zoo and visit friends and family, and I got that podcast interview with Whit from last week that you heard. And when I went to the zoo, I brought my girlfriend Cheryl. She'd never been to the zoo before, so that was a treat for her, and she got to visit many of my friends and family who she didn't know. So that was exciting. And we have talked about moving to the Sioux. Now, just for a quick recap, I was born and raised in the Sioux, and I lived there till I was 19. Then I went to North Bay for university, and for the next, how many years? Until I was 26-ish, I moved back and forth between the Sioux and North Bay. And then I met Lynn, and when I was 27-ish, we moved up here to Timmins, and I've been here ever since. And I've often thought about moving back to the Sioux. Cheryl is good for moving, and she might like to go to the Sioux as well, she said. So we went and did the visit, and she's like, you know what, I think I can get used to this place. I think we should move here. She wants to move there possibly next summer, and that's my dilemma. I'm 50-50 on moving to the Sioux, and why is that? Well, lots of thoughts. My kid is here. He's 12 years old. I don't want to abandon him. And people tell me, oh, you're not really abandoning him. You'll see him lots in the summer and on long weekends and stuff. But that's not the same as being able to see him whenever I want. So that gives me pause. And if I transfer to the Sioux, then I'm starting in a new post office, coming in as a transfer, taking somebody else's seniority away from them. And then that person is going to be pissed off at me. And I have to start new routes, get to know new coworkers and stuff. And I'm almost 42. I'm getting old. Do I really want to do that? I don't know. So I'm torn. Moving there next summer. Bishop will be 13 and a half. But part of me wants to wait until he's done high school. And then by that time, I'm going to be 47, 48 years old. Just like 11 years away from retirement. Do I really want to? I don't know. It's a lot to think about, and I'm just not sure. So what else is going on? Well, this weekend coming up is the Northern Ontario Expo Comicon Timmins. And what is that, you might ask? Well, if you listen to my other podcast, The Rusted Robot, you know all about it. But a quick summary, this is the 8th annual Comicon Timmins, and we have celebrity guests come up to town, and there's artist alley, and there's vendor booths, and all kinds of fun stuff. It's basically Geek Fest. And this year I'm going to have a booth of my own, selling some of my collectibles, trying to thin out the collection, earn some money, maybe go on a fancy trip with the money, maybe put it away towards retirement. I don't know yet, but that's what's going on. So lots of work for that. I'm the social media coordinator for the Northern Ontario Expo, so I do all the posts and whatnot, Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook page. Lots of fun, lots of work, and it's going to be an exciting weekend, but exhausting. The fun thing is that my brother Robin, who is Wit's co-host on the Space Jam podcast, is coming up. Robin's bringing his daughter, Trinity, my niece. She's 2 months younger than Bishop, so it's good for the cousins to get together and hang out. So that'll be fun, and they'll be helping me at my booth, because I'll have to be doing the rounds at the expo as well, helping out because I am on the board. Now, as you may recall, at the beginning of the episode, there was a new intro, and that's because I am joining a podcast network. In fact, every episode from here on out, I'm going to play a different promo for a different podcast for people who are part of that network, because when you join a network, that's what you do. So how did this all come about? Well, about a month ago or so, I was on Facebook on the podcast feedback group, and I looked at somebody's link for their episode. When I clicked on it, it brought me to their homepage, and there was a little tiny advertisement for the Earth Station 1 podcast network. So I looked at that and I was like, I don't know what that is, but let me check it out. So they had about, 20 or 30 different podcasts on there, and they're all in a network. And what that means is that you have the same little opening thing and same closing thing at the end of the podcast, and you play each other's promos. So that way, your advertisement gets out there more, you possibly get more listeners, and it's great. So Mike is the head of the ESO network. I've just joined the network, so that's exciting. Both the Soul Forge and the Rusted Robot podcast are on that. So, of course, you're going to hear podcast promos for different shows. And why am I doing that? It seemed like it was time. I'd been doing the Rusted Robot for more than 4 years, and it's always nice to get more listeners, and it's actually not that easy. And you know what else happened this week, actually, that I should mention? Not only did I join the podcast network, I guested on a Play on Nerds podcast. And if you don't know who they are, you should really check them out. The guy who actually did the opening for the Soul Forge, where he says,
Welcome to the Soul Forge.
welcome to the Soul Forge. And he's got that really smooth, silky, sexy voice. Well, that's my friend Jarman, and he's the co-host along with his buddy Steve on the Play on Nerds podcast. And this week, they asked me to guest for a portion of their podcast because they were reviewing the movie The Postman, and of course I'm a mailman, and they wanted to ask a bunch of questions about it. So we did that, and that should be out next week, maybe the week after, I'm not sure. But check out a Play on Nerds podcast. They're great. And once again, Jarman, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I love it. It's awesome. Okay, so that's what's going on here. Another funny thing that happened this week is on Twitter, and I'm at Darth Vaderloo on Twitter, I've decided to quit my job and become a professional podcaster. All I need are sponsors. And I got a lot of feedback from my Facebook friends. They're like, really? Oh, congratulations, that's awesome. Now, of course, I haven't quit my job. All it said was I have decided to quit my job and become a professional podcaster. And I have decided to do that. I just can't quit yet because I have no sponsors. So if you want to be a sponsor of the podcast and help me quit my job so I can just podcast full time, that would be awesome. Or even if you know somebody who wants to be a sponsor. I'm just kidding. I'll never be as big as Joe Rogan or Mark Maron or what's his name, Chris Hardwick from the Nerdist podcast. But that would be awesome. If I could make a living doing this and not have to deliver the mail anymore, my body would be so grateful. But anyway, let's talk about pop culture recommendations. Now, of course, if you are listening to the Rusted Robot podcast, then you already know lots of the things that I'm into. So one of the things that I'm into are comic book movies and TV shows. Now, I don't read a lot of comics, but I do like the shows that they make based on them. Not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't watch Gotham. None of that stuff, but the Netflix shows I love, such as Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, Punisher, all those ones there. I highly recommend them. Of course, they have rankings. Daredevil's awesome. Luke Cage was great. People didn't like Iron Fist a lot. I loved it. I thought it was great. Defenders was awesome. Jessica Jones season 1 was hard to watch. Season 2 just dropped there about a month or two ago, and that was pretty good actually. And the Defenders crossover series, also great. If you haven't watched those, I would highly recommend them. I actually got Cheryl into them. She hadn't seen them, and she started with The Punisher, and then she went back and watched everything else. And so she liked all that too. And you don't have to like the comic books. You don't have to read them. They're good dramas. They have humor, great acting, just good all-around shows. So if you don't have Netflix, why not? Also on Netflix, we just finished both seasons of Santa Clarita Diet. Now this came out last year, and I didn't watch it because everybody and their brother was talking about this stupid show. And I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to watch it because that's one thing you might not know about me. I never go for the trendy things. So when music is super big and popular, I tend not to like it. And then years later, I tend to grow an appreciation for it. Such as when I was in university, everybody was talking about the Tragically Hip. And I'm like, I don't know who these guys are, but I'm not going to listen to them because everybody's talking about them. Same thing a few years before that with Nirvana. Everybody loved Nirvana, and I'm like, I don't know who they are. I don't care. I'm not going to find out. And of course, years later, after I, what's the right word? Not let my defenses down. Got over myself, maybe. Whatever it is, I gave it a chance, and of course, I don't like all of it, but I like some of it, and I'm like, you know what? What the heck? What the heck, Sean? Why do you deny yourself pleasure when you're trying to be not highfalutin, not uppity, superior maybe? I don't know. Whatever it is. I just have issues, I guess. Season 2 of Santa Clarita Diet came out about 2 weeks ago, and so I thought to myself, maybe I'll watch the first season just to see what everybody was talking about, and it was great. So Cheryl and I binged both seasons, and it was fantastic. It's gross, but it's funny as well. Highly unrealistic. It's about an undead Drew Barrymore and what she does to survive, basically. And it has her husband and their kid and the kid's neighbor, the neighbor kid, and all this stuff. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's only half an hour show, so it's pretty great. Have you watched Glow on Netflix? That came out last year. It's with Mark Maron. He does the WTF podcast. Great show. Season 2 should be coming soon. I rewatched 13 Reasons Why with Cheryl. That's the girl who kills herself and then makes 13 tapes about why she did it. And it's hard to watch. Very emotional. Very good drama. I highly recommend it. And that's about all I can think of right now for Netflix, except for Lost in Space. That came out this past Friday the 13th, and I've watched 8 of the 10 episodes. I love it. The acting isn't necessarily top notch. The science behind some of the stuff they do, maybe not accurate, but I don't care about that stuff. It's fun to watch. It's highly addictive. It's just a lot of fun. I don't really want to say anything without giving spoilers away, but if you watched the original series, and I have seen a few episodes, but not a lot of cool Easter eggs. The main bad guy on both Lost in Spaces was Dr. Smith. In the original series, Dr. Smith was played by the actor Jonathan Harris. In this series, Dr. Smith was played by Bill Mumy, who actually played the original Will Robinson, who was the kid on the show.
Danger, Will Robinson.
We only see him in a cameo on this one, but there's a bad girl named June Harris who steals his jacket and pretends to be Dr. Smith. And what's cool about June Harris's name? Well, the original Dr. Smith was played by Jonathan Harris, and the original Maureen Robinson, who's the mom on the show, was played by June Lockhart. So they took June Lockhart and Jonathan Harris, made the name June Harris, and made that Dr. Smith. So pretty cool. All kinds of Easter eggs like that. You can really get an appreciation for it. But if you don't know these things, it doesn't even matter. It's just cool and fun to watch. And the acting's, it's okay. Definitely go watch Lost in Space. What's not on Netflix? Well, Roseanne came back after 20 years. That's cool. I've been watching that since it came out maybe 3 weeks ago. So yeah, maybe 3 or 4 episodes have come out. And the acting's still good. The humor's a little bit forced sometimes, but it's not bad. I'm enjoying it. That's all I can say. I don't know what they're doing with it yet. I don't know how many episodes they're going to have, or if they're going to have another season or whatnot. Just like Will and Grace came back after so many years. I haven't had a chance to see that yet. What else have I watched? Season finale of The Walking Dead was just on last Sunday. Pretty good season finale. Lots of action in it. Not sure what's going to happen, but there could be some drama for next year. And also on regular TV, there's a new show that came out called Alex Inc. That's with Zach Braff, and he plays a guy who quit his job to open up a podcast company. And that's been out for 3 or 4 weeks. And that kind of inspired me to post what I did on the Twitters there the other day about quitting my job and becoming a professional podcaster. If that guy can do it, why can't I? Well, I can't because I don't have $10,000 in my 401k that I can borrow. I don't even know what a 401k is. I assume it's some kind of retirement fund, but I don't know. Anyway, fun show. Zach Braff is great. He was the guy who was the main doctor on Scrubs, which I haven't had a chance to see all of that either, but it was fun. It was a good show. And I think that's basically all I can remember for current TV shows that I've been watching. Black Panther just surpassed the Titanic to make the list of top grossing movies in the US. So it's Black Panther in 3rd place, followed by Titanic, and above that, what was it? It was, I know that Star Wars The Force Awakens is number 1, and I think Avatar's number 2, then Black Panther, then Titanic. So yeah, haven't been to the movie theater in a while. I did see Pacific Rim Uprising, actually, so I guess it hasn't been that long. And that was okay, that was fine. If you liked the first one was better, but this was okay too. We're all waiting for Avengers Infinity War at the end of the month. And the new trailer for Solo, A Star Wars Story, came out this past week. And it actually made me want to see this movie. It didn't look good before. It looked like crap. But of course, it's Star Wars, so I'm going to go see it. Deadpool comes out in mid-May. So lots of fun, good movies coming out. Lots of good stuff on Netflix all the time. Do you have any recommendations? Anything I should see? Or any of our listeners should see? Let us know. Make sure you tweet us at SoulForgePod or me at Darth Vaderloo. You can email us. Well, me. It's just me here. I don't know why I always say us. Maybe because I have co-hosts on the Rested Robot. But of course, I'm the only one who does the social media for anything. So, just tweet me, email me. You know what else would be good? Like the SoulForge podcast page on Facebook. Tell all your friends and share the links. I got a bunch of people at work to share the links, but that's not really translating into listeners yet. So if you guys could do that, that would be awesome. And really, that's it. Maybe go check out the other shows on the Earth Station 1 podcast network. go listen to the Rusted Robot podcast. If you have topic suggestions for things you'd like to talk about on the Soul Forge podcast, you think I should talk about or bring up, or if you want to be interviewed, we could Skype and you could be on the show. Richard from Australia, I haven't heard from you in a while. I've been wondering if you're still listening. In the past, you've done a lot of Facebook feedback, which was great, but I haven't seen or heard from you in a while. Just want to make sure you're okay. Let me know how you are, and maybe we'll get you on the show. That would be awesome. Maybe I'll go to Australia. Maybe I'll sell so much stuff at the expo this weekend, I'll have enough money to take a trip and go to Australia. We could meet. I'll bring my recording equipment. We could have a live on location Soulforge podcast with Sean and Richard. What do you think? Anyway, that's it for this week. Hope you have been amused by the show. No specific topic, just a bunch of random ramblings. But every once in a while you need to do that. Just so you guys know, I'm doing okay. I hope you're okay. And we'll talk soon. And remember, be yourself today. You look beautiful like that. This has been another episode of the Soul Forge Podcast. Contact the show by emailing soulforgepodcast@gmail.com or by tweeting soulforgepod on Twitter. Visit us at soulforgepodcast.com, and remember, the best way to show your support is by leaving a 5-star review in the iTunes Store. And, if you would, please check us out and like us on Facebook. The Soul Forge Podcast was written, produced, scored, edited, engineered, and directed by Sean Vanderloo. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Darth Vaderloo. For more great content, you can listen to my other podcast, The Rusted Robot. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. We'll keep the fires lit until your next visit.
I could do this all day.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic Store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.